clause, okay, the head is usually the verb. I think almost always, yeah, the verb, because the verb decides the subject and the object. Gitu ya. For example, the verb sit, for example, okay, it requires what?
A noun phrase.
A noun phrase. A noun phrase yang seperti apa? Sit.
Bench, like a bench.
Oh no.
It requires what? It requires what to the left, and it requires what to the right. On a chair. Okay, so look, it decides the type of things that people usually sit on, right? Something that can be sat on, right? Okay, for example, you know, the verb sit, okay, itu pasti akan menolak kalau misalnya on air, for example, gitu ya. He sits on air. What do you mean by on air? It's grammatically incorrect, semantically, gitu ya, syntactically and semantically incompatible, gitu kan ya, gitu. Jadi the verb sit itu sendiri udah menentukan, gitu loh, gitu ya. Do you get my point? Gitu. Those kind of stuff, gitu ya. Or for example, yang paling jelas itu seperti ini misalnya, I think, I study English, for example. Okay, now I study English, or we study English, right? Now, this is a simple sentence, right? It consists of three words. I study English, and you have this one. You need to decide the head of this sentence, and then the head is, you know, is a study. Now, pay attention to the word study, and then why do you think the verb study is the head? First, for example, if I omit the word study, and then you have the word I, and then what? English. You know, it sort of loses the meaning, right? So, for example, I omit I, and then you have study English, you can sort of tell that the subject should be what? Human being, right? Because cat cannot study English, it should be human being, right? Because the verb study itu sort of decide that study itu hanya untuk manusia, dan bahkan dia sangat menentukan lagi untuk orang-orang yang sudah dewasa. Okay, kindergarten students, for example, they can learn English, but they don't study English. Do you get my point? Gitu. And then the verb study also requires something that can be studied. You cannot study, or you can study cake, meaning like you really make a, you know, you make an observation of a cake, something like that, but it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really fit well, I guess, gitu ya. For example, you don't, nowadays you can study almost everything, you know. Apa ya? Ya, gitu ya. Jadi it's usually related to something that can be studied. Gitu. Jadi that's why the verb study is the head. Gitu. Jadi ingat ya, ada level-levelnya.
Hello,
okay? Yes.
So because the verb as the head decides what is it on the left and on the right.
The dependence, yeah.
Yeah, the dependence. So that is why we have transitive, intransitive.
Yeah.
Transitive. Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Because
okay.
it reminds me to this four.
Yeah. And then you are, if for example you are required to draw a tree diagram, you really need to understand the type of verbs. Makanya latihannya itu adalah tentang transitive, karena nanti ujung-ujungnya nanti hasil akhirnya nanti kan diminta untuk drawing tree diagram. Hasil akhir supaya kalian benar-benar mengerti itu nanti adalah drawing the tree diagram. Can you draw the tree diagram? Now, to be able to draw the tree diagram, of course, you need to understand all the elements. And then I'm going to give you multi-interpretative sentences to be drawn. Gitu. Jadi ada two types of, drawings, the three diagrams. Gitu. Okay? All right. Other questions?
Boleh jelaskan lagi tentang dependence itu apa yang disebut obligatory terus
Yes, thank you for that. So some dependents are obligatory and then some others are adjunct. That's why you need to understand the function or the types of verbs. For example, if I put the book on the table. Okay. I put the book on the table near my bed, for example. I put the book on the table near my bed, right? Okay, now please decide the head. Of course, the head is put, right? Put is the head. Now, what type of verb is the word or the verb put?
Transitive verb ya put ya tulis.
I put the book on the table. It's transitive. The book on the table. Now, so you have the book. The book is complement because the verb put requires one
noun phrase
as its object. Now, let's decide another phrase. On the table. Is on the table, all of these are dependents, right? But we need to decide whether this is a complement, whether we cannot omit this because the verb says so. The verb restricts or selects different types of. Now, put. If, for example, I put the table, I put the book. Semantically speaking, it needs something. It needs location, right? You get my point? So on the table, okay, is required by the verb put. We cannot omit this. So on the table and the book are complement. We cannot omit this because the verb put requires those two together. Okay, but we can omit near my bed. Okay, so for example, I put the book on the table. It makes sense, but for example, I omit the last one, right? But if I change this, I put on the table near my bed. No, it doesn't make any sense, right? Or I put the book near my bed. It is okay, right? It is still okay because it's location. But because you have on the table, okay, the book on the table. Oh, okay, that's interesting because it can be multi-interpretative. The book on the table near my bed. Do you get my point? Jadi multi-interpretatif kan? Ambiguous nggak?
Yes, Ibu.
Yes. Jadi the book on the table, yang tadinya buku saya di meja saya, terus saya taruh di near my table, near my bed. Gitu. Anyway, this kind of stuff. That's why you need to sort of understand the function or the types of verbs. Gitu ya. Jadi complements itu berarti obligatory. Yeah, they cannot be omitted. Okay, they need to be there. But adjuncts, you can have so many adjuncts. I called you yesterday afternoon after blah, 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 for example. Yeah, for example, I call you, I call you, the word I call you, that's enough. Okay, you itu sudah termasuk apa? complement. It's grammatically correct. But you can have so many adjuncts after that. I call you yesterday afternoon to call about blah 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 and blah 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 blah. You can have like 1,000 of phrases after that in one sentence, but it would be weird. But it's okay, gitu kan ya. But you basically just need those kind of stuff. Gitu. Okay? Does that answer your question, Irene?
Yes, Ibu. Thank you so much, Ibu.
Other questions? Tidak ada? Ya udah, kalau tidak ada kan istirahat dulu. 10 or 15? Sambil nanti kalau ada pertanyaan kalian simpen nanti di ini aja pertanyaan. Nah, setelah ini saya akan bahas tentang tugas tadi yang tadi. Jadi satu-satu saya akan kasih contoh head-nya itu seperti apa, ininya seperti apa together. Gitu ya. Oke? 15 minutes. Gitu. Jadi kalau masih ada pertanyaan nanti nggak apa-apa lanjut dengan pertanyaan. Gitu ya. Kita pelan-pelan aja. Alright? So 15 minutes break, you can have your snack or whatever. Ya. 15 minutes. Jadi nanti kita kembali di 10:40. Alright. Ya.
Alright.